Hi everyone, welcome to this September meetup. It's been a while since I've seen everyone, so it's good to reconnect. I know that we've been kind of flying under the radar for the past 2 months. There's been a lot going on, so thanks for being patient with us. I will talk about some things or some changes that we're thinking about in the next few weeks and months, so definitely going to talk about that. Today we have a pretty packed agenda. There's a lot of things to cover, and also I'll towards the end of the or at the end of the meetup today, I'll talk about some of the things to look up for in the next few weeks and months, and some of the changes that we going to be rolling out. All right, with that, I still see people coming in, but we're just going to kick things off, be respectful to everyone's time here. As always, some housekeeping. If you noticed, we changed the name of that meetup, and this is kind of the first thing that I wanted to share with our community. So this is no longer the Azure Arc community meetup. This is now Azure Arc Edge and Platform community meetup. And the reason for that change, to give some context here, is that our portfolio is getting bigger and bigger, and it's not going to be just about Azure Arc, even though Azure Arc is the centerpiece of the strategy that we're rolling out here in Microsoft. Something that you're gonna hear us, talking more about at Ignite in a couple of months here. But net here is that we really want to make sure that we're giving the opportunity for other product groups to come in and share the love and just kind of making sure that everyone are in the know. Arnav, do you mind just muting people while I'm talking? Just don't mute me. Thanks.
Earlier, you did get muted.
Sorry, I think I've muted you by accident.
All right. Anyway, what I was saying is that I share some details on that over the chat. So thanks for kind of acknowledging that, and you should expect more good things to come from this community moving forward. All right. As always, everything is on our GitHub repositories, the recordings, the decks, all the content that we are delivering, everything is available, open source. We rolled that change many months ago, and it's been working great. No reason to change this one. So there's that. All the previous recordings are on the YouTube channel. You can go watch those. They're usually being uploaded a day after at the latest. So go ahead and check those out. And with that, let's go over to our formal agenda for today. There is a lot to talk about when it comes to the Jumpstart, so I'll kick us off, and then I'll have Dale joining me to talk to you about some of the things that we're rolling out. Then I'll move to Nikita, Arnav for, Molish and Sneed for Arc-enabled VMware vSphere. Arnav is going to talk about Arc-enabled servers, and we're going to have a need to talk about the monitoring with GitOps and Kubernetes. All right, with that, let's kick us off. So there was a lot going on in the past 2 months in the Jumpstart. For those of you who've been following me on social media, you know how vocal I am when it comes to the things that we do. And again, I want to acknowledge and appreciate everyone's support with this. There's a lot going on with the Jumpstart. There's going to be a lot more things to come. You should expect a lot of good things in the next couple of months. But with that, I just want to kind of first of all highlight the big thing that we released in the past, in the past 2 months or so. Jumpstart Agora. Again, if you've been following, the Jumpstart Agora is really our first tab on industries. Until today, the Jumpstart was really focusing about kind of the technologies, how to do the automations and all that, which is great, but we wanted to take it one step further and start acknowledging the fact that we need to build solutions that are industry oriented and bundle all the concepts, all the automations that we have, the storytelling into a unified place that we are able to share that story with the community. So we kick things off with Contoso Supermarket, and we have a video series. I'll share with you some links here in a second. We kick things off with Contoso Supermarket. That's the first scenario. We have, I believe, 6 or 7 kind of inner scenarios inside of that touches almost all the aspects that we wanted to cover, when it comes to this scenario, all the way from Arc-enabled servers and Kubernetes and data pipelines and IoT and edge architecture patterns, and the list goes on. So definitely go and check that out. You can expect a lot more scenarios or solutions that are part of Jumpstart Agora to roll in the next few weeks and months. The next one will be Contoso Manufacturing. That's the one that we are targeting, and hopefully all the stars will align and we will have that, or at least a glimpse of that by Ignite in a couple of months. So that's in a nutshell Jumpstart Agora. Again, I'm not gonna dive too deep in this meetup. You have all the details that you need. We have the Agora homepage, the release blogs, the video series, and the Agora Ready decks. I'll share those links also in the chat after I'll finish my section here. But all the details that you need are there. All the information. So that's Jumpstart Agora. With that, I want to hand it over to Dale, and then I'll come back.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Lior. So another announcement we had, that certainly doesn't overshadow Agora, but we're really excited about is we now have that HCI box is now generally available. So if you're not familiar, HCI box is a sandbox environment to get hands-on with Stack HCI and Azure Arc cloud integration. So you can kind of experience all the great cloud capabilities that HCI has to offer without having physical hardware. It's been about 9 months since we first released HCI box into preview, maybe 9-10 months now. Since then, we've had tremendous community engagement, lots of community contributions in terms of issues identified, features suggested, and it's just really been positive to see all the positive, all the great community contribution around HCI box. And so we're really pleased with the progress we've made. It's been stable for some time now, and so it's now generally available. And so we have a link there if you want to check out the announcement blog and a video just to kind of get a refresher on what HCI box is. But really, really great to see. I just want to plug one thing that really I love really very much about the latest release is the support for AZD, which just makes it that much simpler to deploy HCI box. So if you haven't tried HCI box yet and you really want to kind of experience all that Azure Stack HCI has to offer, but you don't have physical hardware available, HCI box is your tool to do that. So check out the announcement blog, check out the video, hit us up if you have any questions about that, and we can't wait to see how people continue to use HCI box for POCs, for demos, for just any kind of enablement around Stack HCI. So that's it.
No, thanks so much, Dell, and definitely another shout out to the AZD team and the DevDiv team for working with us with AZD. Just to give a bit of background to the community here, for years we've been talking about the Jumpstart CLI, but we didn't want to reinvent the wheel, and it's definitely something that was on our radar for a long time. But when AZD started to work, or the team for AZD started to work with us, we realized the potential that that this CLI has. So definitely, if you've never experienced with AZD, that's a great opportunity to start doing that. Super easy and very smooth experience. So yeah, definitely go check that out. All right, finishing with one last slide around Jumpstart before rolling over to the other product managers. In the past couple of months, a couple new scenarios were rolled out. If you didn't pay attention to that, we did an integration with Datadog. So that's a new integration that Azure Arc-enabled servers got with a new extension for Datadog. So we have a Jumpstart scenario for that, and a couple of scenarios around Acri. So I believe it was I don't know if Yoon was here last time to talk about Acri, but I'll definitely take a note to make sure that she's coming to the next meetup. But this is part of what I was mentioning around the portfolio expanding. So what you see here is a couple of scenarios around on-VIF cameras with Acri, AKS Edge Essentials for single node, multi-node, and you're gonna see more of those scenarios coming in. And those are the scenarios that we've been talking about when we're saying edge and platform, because they are expanding. It's not just about Arc. As a matter of fact, I believe that there is no Arc in those scenarios, if I remember correctly. So that's just an example. Multiple RBox and bug fixes. Everything is in the release notes. Nothing too dramatic, but are important things. Couple of new videos on the channels about Acri and machine configuration for Linux with Jody from the Arc-enabled, from the Azure core team. And if you've been following also the graphics that we're sharing, and if you are presenting on either Azure Arc or other technologies that are related, or you have sessions and demos you want to explain about the Jumpstart and all that, we refreshed the entire deck portfolio that we have. So we've been rolling with this for multiple years now in terms of open sourcing community decks. So everything is refreshed on the website. So definitely you can go and check that out. The links are over there. With that, I'm going to hand it over, I believe, to Nikita. Nikita, take us away.
Thanks so much, Lior. Hi, everyone. I'm Nikita Tuckru. I'm a product manager in the Azure Arc-enabled data services team, and I'm really excited to be here to go over the latest features that we've released for Azure Arc-enabled data services. Today, what we're going to look at specifically is we'll dive into the capabilities for both Arc-enabled SQL Server and also Azure Arc-enabled SQL Managed Instance. So let's go ahead and start with what's new with Azure Arc-enabled SQL Server. On Azure Arc-enabled SQL Server, one of the changes is that the Azure extension for SQL Server can now automatically rotate certificates for Microsoft Entra ID for service managed certificates. Similarly, for customer managed certificates, you can actually still go in, and we have the documentation live for this in terms of how you can rotate those certificates as well. Besides this, you can also configure patching in the Azure portal as well. The way that you actually would do this is you would go into the Azure portal and go to the Server Azure Arc section. We recently launched in the previous month our new SQL Server configuration section, which is under operations. You would click on that and then you will be able to configure patching from there. And you can enable or disable patching and also set a maintenance schedule. So that would be the place. Additionally, also for Azure Arc-enabled SQL Server, proxy bypass is also supported for the extension. And what this means is that you can specify services which should not use the specified proxy server. Now, with that being said, these are all of our updates for Azure Arc-enabled SQL Server for both July and August. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the updates for Azure Arc-enabled data services. So now for data services in Azure Arc-enabled SQL Managed Instance, you now have support for configuring and managing Azure failover groups. So what this means is between two Azure Arc-enabled SQL Managed Instances, you can now configure a failover in the Azure portal. And this is a disaster recovery scenario as well. Besides this, OpenSearch and OpenSearch dashboards are now upgraded from version 2.7.0 to 2.8.0. And then we've also added some more information to our backup and recovery controller database as well. So if you're trying those features out, feel free to take a look at the Microsoft documentation and you will see that. And then these are all of our updates for the past 2 months for Azure Arc-enabled data services. So thank you all so much for listening. Let me know if you have any questions and I'll hand it back to you, Lior, for the next topic.
Thanks so much, Nikita. All right, moving on. Sneet, Malish, whoever wants to take the next one.
Yeah, thanks, Leo. So hi everyone, I'm Sneet. I am a PM working on Azure Arc-enabled private clouds, in particular Arc-enabled VMware vSphere. Today we are excited to share some really big updates to Arc-enabled VMware vSphere. It's a Arc-enabled VMware vSphere has been in preview for a while now. We've received lots of feedback and from customers, this new preview basically addresses some of the feedback we've received. So one of the key pieces of feedback that we got was the lack of support for management services for customers that onboard via Arc-enabled VMware. And we were missing some key services like Microsoft Defender for Cloud, Update Manager, and Azure Monitor through the AMA agent and so on. Additionally, like for existing Arc-enabled servers customers, it was really hard to use Arc-enabled VMware together with Arc-enabled servers. So we've made some major changes to how the product works, and there's a change to the resource model. With that change, we now are able to support all of those scenarios. So one of the key things with the new preview refresh is that customers can start their Arc journey whether by deploying the Arc agent and Arc enabling their servers, or by deploying the resource bridge and connecting their whole vCenter estate as well. So it provides full interoperability. You can start with the agent and then add the virtual hardware capabilities, or start with the virtual hardware capabilities and do agent install at scale. You can get to the same place through either path. Additionally, you can now use all the management capabilities that are available for Arc-enabled servers, also through Arc-enabled VMware, in addition to being able to install the Arc agent at scale. We hope that this really helps you install the Arc agent and enable management services across your VMware estate at scale, and get to Arc enabling them much faster. Additionally, like you can now also see all the Arc-enabled VMware VMs along with Arc-enabled servers in the new machines view, which is the new rebranded Arc-enabled servers view in the Arc Center. You can see both Arc-enabled servers, which are created by installing the agent, but also all the VMs that have been connected via Arc-enabled VMware, but also created through Arc-enabled VMware. So these are some of the key new capabilities enabled by the preview. Yeah, the preview is, of course, not backward compatible with the current preview, though the change that is needed to switch to the new preview version is small. You don't need to redeploy the resource bridge or anything of that sort. You just need to remove those resources that have been Arc-enabled VMs and then add them back into Azure. We have documentation to see on how to switch to the new preview version, and you can go. We'll also share the announcement blog post. This was all announced at VMware Explore last week, and a few weeks back. But yeah, hope the new updates are useful to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Nit. All right. Folks, feel free to ask questions in the chat. All the PMs are here. With that, Arnav, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome, thanks. All right, let's talk about Arc-enabled servers. So we have the latest agent version is actually 1.34. So we had both 1.33 and 1.34 get released. So you guys want to be on 3.4. That's just hot off the press today. 1.33, we had a security fix for vulnerability around the local escalation of privilege. So please update to the latest version. It's highly recommended. We have some enhancements in terms of being able to set your agent mode before connecting to Azure. Also, the agent now responds to IMDS requests even when the connection is temporarily unavailable. And we do have a lot of enhancements with the disconnected behavior across the policy and the extension management engine. So we know that a lot of disconnection happens. Maybe you're on summer vacation, your servers get disconnected. So we want to make sure that we're addressing that. And finally, there's the sort of CPU utilization piece as well. We know that there was some high CPU utilization issues with previous agent versions with some of the guest services. And so now we have that enhanced telemetry there and configuration ability, where you can actually configure the CPU utilization caps for Linux on a per extension basis through the guest extension service. So those are some of the core focus areas from an agent fix side. Want to also surface that you do have private preview access for run command. And so this is actually directly available through the connected machine agent through Arc. So no out-of-band CLI for this private preview access. We just need to whitelist your subscription. So if you're interested, please sign up here. We're really looking forward to your feedback. And again, it's kind of funny. We have the security fix with this agent release, but if you're thinking this fleet of servers and suddenly have an incident, need to deploy a script at scale and sequence that at scale, run command might be one of those effective options where you have the template and the automation to do that in a scalable approach. And so you'll be able to sign up for our private preview, and we're looking to get feedback. So it's a great way to engage with PG and work with us. Next slide. I want to highlight to you guys what's really exciting is Windows Server 2012 extended security updates through Azure Arc. You guys have your Windows Server 2012 machines. We know it's a lot of you guys. It's going to be end of support October 10th, 2023. So that's less than a month away. You'll want to update to our latest agent version 1.34 because we're actually going to be supporting ESUs for Azure Arc with this latest agent version. So why extended security updates? You can't migrate to Azure where you're going to get these updates for free or modernized yet, or you can't update to the latest agent version. You want to continue getting those mission critical security patches from a vulnerability perspective, continuing run Windows Server 2012. Well, if you have software assurance, you have EA, or you're running on SPLA and AWS, for example, you can leverage this offer where you're able to enroll in this as a monthly pay-as-you-go build service. No more MAC keys and true-ups every year. All your Arc servers point and click from Azure portal, you're able to enroll them in extended security updates. And those Arc-enabled servers enrolled in ESUs get free access to Update Manager, machine configuration, change tracking inventory, no additional cost. So it's really helping you leverage Azure management for that end-of-life, end-of-support infra. You can learn more about this ESUs here, but it's available with our latest agent version with 1.34, and we're going to be announcing everything shortly. We're going to be able to see it live in portal quite soon, within this month, within September. So we're really looking forward to that and wanted to give you that awareness. So please update to agent 1.34 and inventory your Windows Server 2012 estate, because you're going to be able to enroll in ESUs real soon on that. If you don't mind, Lior, can I do a quick demo of this?
Of course, take the screen.
Awesome. Here we go. Folks able to see my screen? Alrighty.
Yeah, you're good.
So what you're going to have in Azure Arc real soon is this extended security update view. I'm giving you guys a little bit of a preview. And within this ESU extended security update view, you're going to be able to provision your Azure build ESU licenses. And so we're going to be able to go here. We're going to be able to create ESU licenses, specify where that might be. We can activate them, and we can specify them as data center or standard edition, physical core or virtual core based, as well as associated number of cores. We attest to us having SA, and we've now created this monthly Azure build ESU license that you can decrement or stop, decommission at any time, depending on when you migrate. Pay-as-you-go flexibility. And you can literally point and click to enroll your Arc-enabled Windows Server 2012 instances. So we're going to be surfacing for you all of those 2012 machines that need ESUs. You can enroll those and link those to an ESU license, and voila, you've enrolled them in ESUs, and those servers become eligible for receiving ESU patches. And yes, you can use whatever patching solution you choose to get those critical extended security update patches through their end of life. So it's a real clean, easy process that gives you a lot of licensing flexibility, mix and match with standard and data center vCore, pCore, as you sort of decide how to flexibly meet your end of support needs through ESU. So we're really excited with this offer, hot off the press. Update to the latest agent version, but really avoid that deer in the headlight moment with Windows Server 2012. And yes, SA is required, or EA if you're covering under a SPLA with an authorized mobility provider. You can do ESU questions all day, but with that, I'll hand off to the next presenters. Thank you.
Definitely a lot of ESU questions are coming in the chat, and I see internally, I see probably 15 per 2 hours. So yeah, definitely there's a lot of interest around that. Thanks, Arno, for
I'm just an ESU chatbot at this point, so
ESU
I've converted
ESU
my
Copilot, whatever works.
ESU Copilot.
All right. With that, Pavneet, take us home with the last topic for today.
Yeah, thanks, Leon. So hi, everyone. I'm Pavneet. I'm a software engineer part of the GitOps team here. And today I'm going to share some updates regarding multi-cluster monitoring for GitOps. So just a quick overview, like earlier, we could go to the cluster in the portal and check the status of the extensions and the application deployed. And it worked great for a single cluster view, but it was hard when users or customers had hundreds of clusters across different subscriptions. So in order to support that request, we enhanced this experience and provided customers with a way to not only check their status during deployment of application, but also the health and status of applications at any given time through Grafana dashboards. So as part of this, we have created 3 dashboards. The first one shows the status of Flux extension and the application deployment status. The second one monitors the Flux controller status per cluster. Like we have different controllers that are deployed as part of Flux extension. So it gives us statistics about how the controllers are performing and the operations that are done by them. And the third one gives you performance related stats for the Flux resources that are deployed as part of the application. So with that, Lior, I'll take over the screen because I would like to share a demo.
Go for it. Yes.
Thanks. So also, okay, let me Yeah. Let me know if you can see my screen, please.
You're good.
Okay, perfect. So we have this open public documentation that we've already listed detailed steps on how to create these dashboards. So one can leverage this to create whatever I'm about to show today. So starting with like the single cluster view. So this is what we had, we previously had, and even currently we do. So this is for like the extensions under the settings. You can just go over here and see like what's the status of the extension, whether it's in succeeded or failed state. In the GitOps pane on the left, you can actually check all the configurations, all the applications that are deployed. And if we see over here, we can see the last sync commit ID and basically all the configuration objects that were deployed as part of the application deployment for through Flux. So this is good for single cluster as described, as I said earlier, but now it gets difficult if the customer is managing hundreds of clusters across different subscriptions and resource groups. So for that, we created these open source like these Grafana instances. So let me just 1 second. Sorry, there's just something hovering above. Yep. Okay, perfect. So the first dashboard is the application deployment dashboard. So if you can see over here, the first panel shows the status of the extension, like it shows the cluster name, the version of the extension, the Flux extension that was deployed. What's the provisioning state, whether it's in succeeded or failed state. If it's in a failed state, you can actually, you'll actually be able to see the errors for the reason why it failed over here itself. So it can be a first step for troubleshooting the reason for the extension or configuration failures. So the second panel over here is the Flux configuration compliance status. So over here, again, we have the cluster, the applications that you've deployed, which is the configuration name, the source kind, which is basically like where you've stored your manifest in Git repository bucket or Azure blob, the repository URL, and the source last sync commit ID, which basically maps, like you can just select a commit ID and see which commit ID maps to which configuration or applications. And the compliance state, it basically tells you whether your application that you deployed is in successful or failure state. And we are leveraging the single cluster view for, let's say, if application is a non-compliant view. So if you actually click on this, so it will take you to the single cluster view that we currently already have, and it will go to the configuration objects. And let's say if right now the bucket is failing, so you can actually click on this left pane and see like why is it failing. Maybe it has the token or the to connect to it expired or something. So you can just go to the source and update the token and just update the configuration, and this should automatically reconcile and your configuration should go into succeeded state. So this was the first, so this is like, this can be your first step in trying to troubleshoot why your Flux configuration actually failed. And then over here, the third and fourth panels are basically linked to the first and the second panels. This one shows like out of all the extensions that are deployed across different clusters, how many are in succeeded state, creating, deleting, or failed state. And this one is for the applications. So like the applications that you've deployed, how many, what is the current status for it? Like how many of them are in compliant, non-compliant, or they're still pending to be deployed on the cluster. So this is the first dashboard, and we also can create alerts. Let's say if anytime any of the extension goes into failed state, or if the configuration goes from compliant to non-compliant. So we can create alerts in Grafana, and we already have the queries in the open source in the public documentation, sorry. Yeah, over here. So you can just leverage that, create the notification policies, and yeah, you can just leverage this. So this was the first dashboard, and now coming to the second one. So for second and the third dashboard, we actually need Azure Monitor Workspace. So once you create an Azure Monitor Workspace, and you'll need to enable Prometheus metric scraping for the clusters that you want to be displayed in those dashboards. So you can just go to your Azure Monitor workspace under Manage Prometheus, under Monitored Clusters. You can just select whichever cluster you want. You can configure it over here, and in advanced settings, you can actually you need to link like, okay, which Grafana instance you want to send this metrics to. So I'm using Flux Grafana demo. So like I would have selected that. And I've already done that for the cluster that I'm going to use today. So yeah. Also, you can link Grafana instances via this tab and using the link option over here. So once you've done this, you'll also need to install the config map over here that is present. So it basically configures the Azure Monitor agent to scrape the Flux metrics and send it to our workspace. So yeah. So once you install this, and the main thing over here is the pod annotation namespace regex, which searches in the Flux system namespace. So if the user is already has Prometheus enabled on their clusters, and also they'll need to add this particular namespace in the regex. So yeah. Once this is done, all we need to do is download the dashboards and import it in in your Grafana instance. So for the first for the second Grafana dashboard, this is basically for the Flux controllers. So as part of Flux extension that is deployed, there are 6 controllers that are deployed as part of it. So all the information related to these controllers, like their performance on the cluster, can be monitored via this dashboard. So if you see over here, the first one, the Kubernetes API request, this is a general API request made by the controllers. And the next one is all the controllers are listed over here, and like what is their CPU usage, what is their memory usage, and even the cluster, like the reconciliation, the way Flux works is like you need to specify a reconciliation duration at which it goes and reconciles with the sources, and also like all the Flux configuration objects that you've deployed on the cluster. So over here, the Git sources, right now we're pulling it from GitHub. So like, yeah, how many operations are done per minute by the controller. And let's say if you have the Helm chart or Helm releases that are deployed. So you can also monitor that, like how many operations are done per minute across different clusters. So you can see over here, like all of these like charts. So this will help out like how is your Flux extension actually performing. So this is the second dashboard. And for the third dashboard, we have for Flux configuration objects. So this is related to your applications. So when your applications are deployed, each one of them will have different configuration objects. So in order to find out how each of the objects are performing, their reconciliations and everything, you can leverage this particular dashboard. And so over here, you see we have 5 cluster reconcilers and 3 sources reconciler. So in total, we have 8 reconciliations for one configuration that I'm demoing today. So over here, we can see, okay, these are the 5 cluster reconciliation, the customizations that we deployed, the Helm releases. And over here, we have the sources like the Git repository and the Helm repository. So it shows like, okay, the status is ready and it's working as expected. But if it failed at any point, it will actually show you like, okay, the reconciliation failed. And yeah, then you can leverage like the configuration object that we had in the single cluster view to see, okay, maybe it is because of the token expiration or any other failed reasons. So yeah, other than that, we have this cluster reconciliation and source reconciliation panels, which basically shows like the reconciliation for each of these Flux configuration objects. So let's say for customizations, we have all of these. So the reason why we have these gaps is because we have an interval of 10 minutes at which it reconciles. So that's why we see these gaps. And these are for these source intervals. So like the Helm repositories and the Git repositories sync intervals and reconciliations. So you can see how is it performing and everything is working as expected, and how long does it take for the reconciliation to happen. Like if the repository is big, it might take longer, and you'll be able to see like what's the average duration for it for reconciliations. So this is it. And yeah, Lior, can you please share the presentation again?
Yes. There you go.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So alerting on Grafana, as I mentioned earlier, create alerts on Flux configuration and extension failures. So we can already create that using the queries that I showed earlier, and anytime any of these go into fail state, you'll be alerted. And we can also create custom alerts on Azure Monitor for specific errors. Let's say your configuration objects, your customization, your source repository, your Helm releases or Helm repositories go into fail state. So the way to create that is also mentioned and listed in the public documentation, and we have the bicep template for it, which you can import. So that's there. And for future enhancements and what we are planning, our roadmap for development is to provide right now. All of these Grafana dashboards are hosted in a GitHub repository, and the user needs to actually download it and then import it. So we are working on making it built in so that whenever we release new updates, the user can be automatically updated and they don't need to manually update their dashboards. The second one is provide easier paths for alert creations on Azure Monitor rather than using bicep templates and all that. Like, we'll be providing it through portal and making it a better user experience for users to easily create the alerts. And the third one is enable diagnostic logs to customer-owned log analytics workspace. So basically right now, if the user wants detailed logs for the containers for each of the controllers that are deployed as part of Flux extension, they need to go into Container Insights and enable it. But we'll be enabling shoebox logging, which will basically give the user like all those logs in the Flux extension or configuration pane. We still have to decide that, but we'll be providing user with that experience. So yeah, they don't need to go into Container Insights and actually create another instance for it. Yeah, this is all I had. Thank you for listening.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Bhavneet. A lot of good information and demo. And with that, let me just bring back the chat here because I don't see it, and I will reshare my screen. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. If you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand. I'll try to moderate here as much as possible. I see a lot of chatter going on, so that's good. And if not, feel free to drop, and we'll give people some time back. Feel free to raise your hand and ask any questions that you may have. Okay, I see no hands. Once, twice. Okay, thank you, everyone. We're gonna see you next month. Expect more updates on community and logistics coming in the next few days. We're gonna have some changes rolling out. Thanks everyone for your patience, and it's awesome to see everyone again. Bye, everyone. We'll see you on the other side.